Yes, it is 7 p.m. on the Pacific coast of the United States. Howdy doody time. It is Hump Night, Wednesday, December 10th, 2008. And this is Lundon Calling, the talk show you've been waiting for. The internet talk show that could get you high. Do you know you could become a podhead? Yeah, my name is Ace London. Welcome, all you wild and wonderful weirdos out there in Podland. Thanks for tuning in. Pre- and post-show music is provided by Sonic Eccles. More information is provided about Sonic on the website. And I'm supposed to warn you in advance every show that if you have virgin ears, don't listen. Folks tell me I have a potty mouth, okay? So I have a potty mouth, and my co-host likes to tinkle the ice. Yes, he does. Lance, are you with me?
I am. Can you hear the tinkle?
Oh, yes, I hear the tinkle.
Wonderful.
You know, hey, you are such a good-looking guy that it makes me feel like I'm looking in a mirror. Holy mackerel.
I was going to say, time for a visit to the eye doctor.
Okay, folks, as Aristotle said, it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So you know what you're in for when you listen to Lundon Calling. In the last show, Lance, you corrected me regarding the largest religion being Islam. You said there was 33% Christian compared to 20% Muslim. Do you remember that?
Are you going to get me? Are you going to prove me?
Well, I thank you for the correction. I have to kind of tell you this, however. My feeble brain was thinking like the Protestant that I was raised to be. You see, evangelical fundamentalist Protestants do not honestly think of Catholics as being Christian. No, we don't. We weren't taught that. In those thoughts, all Catholics are going to hell. And in the recording of religious groups that you mentioned, the 33%, Catholics are definitely a part of the percentage of numbers of that 33%, as are all of the others whom the evangelicals do not consider to be on the road to heaven, such as the Mormons, the Seventh-day Adventists, etc., whom evangelicals considered to be cults in Christianity. So when I said that Islam was the largest, I was thinking like the evangelical Protestant, and that means that we basically eliminate the Catholics and all the cults. So my thoughts were from my leftover days in fundamentalism, where in the U.S. there are 66 million Catholics. And the next largest group in this so-called Christian group is the Southern Baptists with 16 million members. So now you know where I was coming from, but I'm glad you corrected me. And I noticed that Business Week reported recently that 163 million folks in the U.S. belong to some of the 200 major national Christian churches, which does include all of the aforementioned cults and the Catholics and everything. Anyway, I just had to bring that up to you, but I thank you for correcting me. You're a good co-host. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Speaking of religions, it's time for one of my religious jokes. You know I love them so much. And this one takes place in the confession booth. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I've been with a loose girl. The priest asks, Is that you, little Johnny Parisi? Yes, it is, Father. And who was the girl you were with? I cannot tell you, Father. I don't want to ruin her reputation. Well, Johnny, I'm sure to find out her name sooner or later, so you may as well tell me now. Was it Tina Minetti? I cannot say. Was it Teresa Volpe? I will never tell, Father. Was it Nina Capelli? I'm sorry, Father, but I cannot name her. Was it Kathy Piriano? My lips are sealed, Father. Was it Rosa D'Angelo then? Please, Father, I cannot tell you. The priest sighs in frustration. You're very tight-lipped, little Johnny Parisi, and I admire that, but you've sinned and have to atone. You cannot be an altar boy now for 4 months. Now you go and behave yourself. So Johnny walked back to his pew, and his friend Nino slides over to him and whispers, What did you get? Oh, 4 months vacation and 5 good leads.
I love it.
Yes. Yes. It's toast time. Got your toast up there?
I do.
I'll clink the glass.
Who are we toasting?
Well, it's time to toast those friends who make this show a reality, and we are now to the East Coast time zone friends. I've mentioned that, in life, anything worthwhile that's ever been done is never accomplished by just one person. It always takes your friends and a village of people to accomplish anything decent in life. And it is our friends that really will be making this show worthwhile for others to listen to also. And the Eastern time zone takes, that's Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia, and the District of Columbia and most of Indiana, plus Eastern Tennessee and Kentucky. Wow, what a large time zone, but they're a bunch of little states. Mm-hmm. Hey, just to let you know, I screwed up last show. You know what I did? I put Michigan into the central zone. I could not believe
London.
I could not believe I had done it, but I mentioned all of those wonderful people in Michigan, and they were as if they were in the central zone. Somehow or other in my little brain, Michigan just seems to be like central, but it's eastern. Sorry, folks. It's Lance's fault. He never corrected me.
Blame it on the co-host.
So good to have a co-host. However, I did miss 2 folks from Michigan. I'll correct that now. My beautiful Teresa Richards up there, who does an awful lot of traveling all around the country, and Hudari P.T. Brown from the Hannibal Group in Hamtramck, Michigan. And I also forgot to mention Dr. Peter G., head in the Department of Psychology at the University of Illinois, Chicago, on the last show also. And I just heard from an old friend earlier was it yesterday, I guess it was? Earlier than yesterday, from Bergen, Norway, who will be listening in on our podcast shows. His name is Christer Fasmer, and he's a producer-director with Flimmer Films over there. And so, on to our East Coast time zone listeners who listen in at 10 p.m. live. There's Paul Hagen with Metro Source Magazine in New York City, Kent Fortis, Lambda Rising Bookstore in D.C., Eric Johnson, the wonderful actor who is now in New York City, Cindy Krager with the GLAAD organization, GLAAD, Victor Kinzer, the INU, Indiana University librarian, Jim Curry. He's the editor of Diversity Rules magazine in Oneonta, New York. Dr. Eileen Landry at Brown University. She is the creator of the Arts Literacy Project there. Vinny Lopez at MTV in New York City. Ryan Lowe, the wonderful actor and singer and dancer, male star of Chicago, that ran on Broadway for so long. Karen Lynch, the wonderful authoress in Florida, and I love her book called The Game of Lies. Bill A. Mays, jazz pianist in Pennsylvania, and he's with Palmetto Records in New York City. Fran McDaniels, Bucknell University in Pennsylvania. Susie Mink in D.C. with the Pediatric AIDS Foundation. Elizabeth Glazer was an old friend of mine, and she founded that pediatric AIDS. David Mixner, another old-time pioneer for gay rights in New York. Jean Marie Navetta, she's in D.C. with the PFLAG organization. Rommel Ochoa, actor, dancer, New York. Dave Parker with PFLAG. He is literally a wonderful book critic, by the way. Moki Porter with the Vietnam Veterans of America organization down there in, I think it's D.C., yes. Gwendolyn Alden Dean at the LGBTA at Cornell University. Phil Allgood down in Florida. Phil tries to listen into the show because he works the evening shift, and he's got one of those headphone things that he has, so he probably is listening tonight right now. Phil Allgood down in Florida. And then there's Andy Hum with the Free Speech's Gay USA show, with his co-host Ann Northrup in New York. Wonderful, wonderful newscast that they do on Free Speech Channel, Gay USA. Gada Atiyah in D.C., Debbie Bazarski at LGBT in Princeton University, Roberta Berry, call her Bobby, with PFLAG in Keene, New Hampshire, Wendy Berry, my culinary friend in New York City, Joseph Biscaglia into the political world, working with one of the House of Representatives people, Emily Blake at Lehigh and Colgate in the LGBT groups. Then there's D.V. Brower, or Dot, at the University of Vermont, heading up the LGBT group. Kevin Chambliss, the chairman of the Black Caucus, and he's doing a good job. It's the new chairman. Rick Choler at George Mason University in Virginia with the LGBT. Cheryl Clark at Rutgers in New Jersey. Kimberly Roberts, Columbia University in New York City. George Sanders and his life mate Sean in New York City. George is one of the most fantastically talented entertainers that you'd ever want to meet. God, they stand in line to catch his shows. Dana Schreiber, a professor, lives in Connecticut, and he's also a great artist. Jeff Smith in Massachusetts. Todd Smith at NYU with the LGBT group. Melissa Walker, another author living in Georgia. Craig Wilson, one of the great columnists for USA Today. Shane Windemeyer, who founded and heads up Campus Pride, the wonderful organization that helps all of the LGBT groups in the universities around the country. Shane is in Virginia. Kerry Dumarat in Hartford, Connecticut. Marlene Hall, my Republican friend in D.C. John Hoadley, my Democratic friend with the Stonewall Democrats in D.C. Brent McEnroe in Buffalo, New York. Marjorie Smith and Stan Messick, they've been living in Sin for many years, down in Florida. Carrie Steigler in Pennsylvania, who has her master's in clinical psychology. Jen Miracle, my wonderful miracle girl down in Florida now. Dr. Margaret Auger in Georgia. Bill Russell, the producer-director up in New York City. Liz Trussler in Cincinnati, Ohio, who is into the nursing world and doing such a wonderful job, bless her heart. Joshua Young, assistant to the president at the Washington Bible College in D.C., Maryland. Now, here's one of my fundamentalist friends, and we can actually talk even though Joshua knows my beliefs and I know his. Steve Lucas at Penn State LGBT, and the great group of LGBT at Princeton University. Yes, a toast to all of you. Thank you for being our friends and tuning in to Lundon Calling. You got anyone you want to mention anyone there?
Ace, I think you pretty much covered the ground.
You know,
we know so many people in common, it's not even funny.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Most of them are the PFLAG people.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of them in PFLAG, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're with, what is your position with PFLAG?
I'm a regional director.
And that region is Mexico or what?
Close.
Close.
It's sort of, Well, I mean, Mexico is unofficially, I guess, sort of part of this region, but it's the Gulf region, which is really not. It's not the right name for it.
Okay,
it really
that includes Florida.
Well, it's Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Puerto Rico, and sometimes Mexico. Sort of like A, E, I, O, and U are all vowels, and sometimes you have W and Y. So
yes, okay.
It's kind of that.
Excuse my cough. Tonight is also a notice time for Lambda Archives Awards that are going to be happening in San Diego this Saturday, the 13th, at the center down there. That's at 3909 Center Street. 5 p.m., it's hors d'oeuvres, or hors d'oeuvres, drinks and a silent auction.
Horse doers.
Yes, hors d'oeuvres. Yeah. The Archives honors this year 12 heroes, pioneers, and trailblazers. Cleve Jones, the founder of the Names Project AIDS Quilt, will receive the Lifetime Achievement Award. And that their organization, Lambda Archives, is just on lambdaarchives.org on the internet. And Lambda Archives is also pleased this year to announce that it has named its new Lifetime Achievement Award in honor of San Diego's Nicole Murray Ramirez. Now, Nicole was one of the columnists that we had with the Coast to Coast Times many years ago, and I also went to see her shows from time to time. She is a wonderful drag show performer, just great. However, I don't know if she's still working on that or not, but she was a wonderful thing. So I'm glad they're honoring her in that aspect. Oh, folks, does your dog seem listless, depressed, and unmotivated? Well, if so, now this is Dr. Ace telling you, veterinary Dr. Ace. If so, he may be suffering from CED. That is canine erectile dysfunction.
Oh, God.
Yes. Well, haven't you seen those poor little puppies, depressed, listless, and unmotivated? Well, this affects around 3 million dogs a year. So I would like to suggest that if that is the case, you ask your vet about Bonerol. The side effects may include dizziness, hair loss, duty breath, and dragging ass across the carpets.
Oh, you're terrible.
So you have now heard your help aspect for your little doggy.
And we are now officially no longer a family show.
Were we ever?
Well, depends on your definition of family and show.
Yes. Well, I warn everybody, if you got virgin ears, don't listen.
You warn them that sometimes you have a potty mouth. What you don't warn them about is that it's pretty much all the time.
Do you know what day this is?
It's December 10th.
It is December 10th. And we have to send birthday greetings out for the 52nd birthday of Rod oh my gosh, what do you pronounce?
Blagojevich.
Blagojevich, yes. He's 52 today. Oh, what a scandalous person he is.
He needs to enjoy his freedom while he's got it. Did you hear he tried to show up for work today?
I know. I just cannot believe. I cannot believe all that. That just goes so far beyond me. I mean, you think I've got a potty mouth. Well, I'd rather have a potty mouth than have whatever the sickness is that man and his wife are going through. I think it's called greed. Just plain old greed.
Naked greed.
Yeah. Also, it is the 10th anniversary of Alfred Nobel's death, which took place in 1896. Oh, that was the year my grandparents were married.
I was going to say, you probably remember it.
I'm gonna
you were there, weren't you?
slap you with my purse. Anyway, it's that anniversary, and the Nobel Peace winner this year I don't know what for. Let's see. Anyway, the prize includes $1.2 million purse, a diploma, and a gold medal. And they're always handed out on December 10th, the anniversary of Nobel's death. And the prize winner this year is Martti Ahtisaari, the former president of Finland. And he just recently urged President-elect Barack Obama on last Wednesday to start his term by giving, quote, high priority to the Mideast conflict, calling it the world's most challenging peace-building project. So congratulations to the former president, Martti Ahtisaari of Finland. And by the way, I saw his picture, Lance, and I could not believe. No, he looks like my brother. He looks like my twin brother. I could not. Brother ugly? Oh, he is butt ugly. I couldn't believe it. But, my cousin went over to Sweden, and we always thought we were Swedes, and then we find out that way back we were Finnish, too. So I guess that's why he and I look alike. Poor man. Anyway, it was 19 years ago today also that my life mate and soulmate, Patrick John Algarin, passed away. Do you know about that old saying about when we remember people on the other side? Can you come up with, what is that saying? I can't think of it.
When we remember people on the other side.
Uh-huh. It keeps their spirit alive. I think that's what they said, or they say. Well, so we remember people that are on the other side. And that's why we have Memorial Day, probably, because we're remembering those that have crossed over. Well,
I think that's a great idea. That's a great sentiment. It reminds me of the Mexican Day of the Dead, of course.
Yeah.
They say the barrier or whatever it is between the living and the dead is thinnest.
Yeah. Well, every 10th of December, I over the last 19 years now, it's been always a day that's been pretty rough for me. It took me about 7 years to get through the grief cycle that one goes through when their life mate passes away. The
half-life.
Yeah, it was a little over half. We were together for almost 13 years, and it took me about 7 years to get it all worked out, my grief situation. I still have times, though, believe me, that it's rough when you're, when you've had a mate and you're in love. There is a big difference between love and in love, too, in case people don't think that. There really is. And I know because I've experienced love and I have experienced in love. I don't really know what people want to know about gay relationships, such as what Patrick and I had. But if you've got questions, you just fire them away at me, Lance, because there are no holds barred, You can ask me whatever you want on this night of remembering Patrick. Now, I must tell you this in front. For those of you out there in Podland who think that, I'm never going to find a mate, you don't have a mate, do you?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I wouldn't know one if it hit me in the head.
Well, there are a lot of people out there who don't have mates, and they're even young people. They're worried about not finding a mate. And, oh, my God, I'm 18 and I'm not married or whatever,
How old were you in 1970, what was it, 8, when you got married to Patrick?
To Patrick, I was 40.
So there's hope, because I'm 38.
Yes, there is hope. Of course, when we're young, we're driven by hormones and estrogen, let's face it. And
what were you driven by?
Hormones and estrogen, the same. And it drives us to seek. Why do you think the bars and all of the social clubs, etc., are so filled all the time with single people trying to find a mate or get laid at night or whatever? That's what drives us, and we think we're never going to find one. And as we age, we're driven by sort of not wanting to be alone. So any of you older listeners out there in Podland who think that, oh, you're alone and you don't want to be alone anymore because you don't want to die without somebody by your side or whatever. Well, I think that society has taught us that we are so family oriented that we absolutely must have a mate or someone in our life. Yeah, whether it may be right in the bed next to us or not, but at least in the bed over, in case you can't stand sleeping together. And after my divorce in 73, 74, that era, I actually thought, because I just came out of the closet, and I thought that I would never find someone who could satisfy that empty space in my life. So I'm no different from other humans. So if you're looking out there and wondering, yes, you may have given up just like I did. But after I had given up, that's when Patrick came into my life. So
that's what
go
they
ahead.
say. Stop looking, it finds you. Yeah.
Yeah, just go ahead, give up whatever you want to do. But if you're destined to have a life mate, believe me, the paths will cross. Mm-hmm. Now, Patrick,
how do you know? What if you're not destined, though? How do you know?
Oh, you could be an old bachelor, an old maid, or whatever they want to call us these days. I prefer being alone in these days.
Yeah, well. So I've got 30 years to make up a little bit of ground here.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
I mean, just the thought of having to get used to somebody else in the house after being alone now since Patrick's passing in '89. Huh?
I said, perish the thought.
Yeah. So it just doesn't seem to fit with me. However, if a love situation ever arose, would I accept? Of course. Love is something that is acceptable. And it doesn't actually have to be in love even, It could just be.
What is the difference between love and in love?
Oh, Lord, if you haven't experienced it, I don't know if you can.
It's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, it is just almost impossible to describe. And I've tried and tried. If you're in love, baby, you know it. I mean, there is just no getting around it, and you realize how different it is from just loving another person. It's quite different. I can't describe it, and I've read a lot of things that people have tried to say about in love.
Hey, Lundon, you at a loss for words?
I know, and they don't seem to describe it either. No.
It's like obscenity. You know it when you see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now I understand.
Okay, good. So, what do you want to know about Patrick and me? What would you like to know?
Well, what was it that made the two of you click? Because he was a little younger than you were.
A little?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? He was younger than my two oldest kids.
Well, I'm using the British little. He was a bit younger than you, was
a bit. Yes.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah. There was a 23-year age difference in us. Mm-hmm. That seems to be a lot.
And you kind of fought him off initially for that reason.
Yeah, I thought, well, when you are that much older than someone, and you're looking at them and you're saying, "Oh, this is it's nice," but they're like your children, And I wasn't looking for the raising of another child or anything,
Right.
And it took me a while to find out that Patrick was not another child. I thought he was a hustler, actually, when I first met him.
Good. Did you ever tell him that?
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
Of course you did.
And he just laughed. I said, well, we were on, I was managing editor at that time, and we were on a R&R down in Palm Springs, California. And it was people coming and going, and one of our what do you call, advertisers arrived with this young man. And I thought, oh, he picked himself up a hustler. Mm-hmm. And I didn't pay any attention to him because I wasn't interested in hustlers. I'd already done a story on them for the publication and such. And so, you know, I just didn't pay much attention. Of course, we met, we were introduced, et cetera, et cetera. But that was about it. I thought he was terribly good looking, but that's because I'm an old lech, you know. I see a good looking person and I say, whoa, 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 I wouldn't kick that out of bed, you know. That's just normal.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's just normal. Straight men do it, gay men do it. Hey, we're just plain old human beings. And it was a few months after that, however, that Patrick arrived at our office. And he was upset and wanted to talk to the publisher, etc. Anyway, as a result of him not getting a chance to talk to the publisher because the publisher wasn't there, he still waited and waited. And when it came time to close up for the day, I thought, what are we going to do? So I said, would you like to join me for a cup of coffee or something? He said, sure. Well, we had coffee and talked for a few hours. And I realized this was no hustler. This was an old soul in a young man's body. Incredibly intelligent, etc., etc. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Don't run into this very often, do we, huh?
Right.
And he said, I'll head on home. And I said, well, where do you live? And he said, down in Whittier. I said, what, you live in Whittier, California, and you're planning on walking down there? He says, yeah, I walk everywhere. I said, if I remember correctly, Whittier is 22 miles from Hollywood.
Oh, good grief.
He says, yeah. I said, oh, that's ridiculous. I've got an extra room at the house. Do you want to stay overnight and you can go down there tomorrow? At least you don't be walking at night. And he says, okay. And he says, I got something I got to take care of first. And he says, then I'll get over to you. What's your address? So I gave him the address. And he says, I got to go take care of some business. So he did. And he didn't arrive. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And about 11:30, knock on the door, and here he is. And he says, sorry it took me so long. He says, is it still okay for me to bunk down tonight here? And I said, sure, come in. Well, we ended up staying up talking again forever and ever. And from that point on, we were actually never apart.
My goodness.
It was just an incredible thing that happened. Well,
How
of course,
were you together before you decided that you wanted to get married?
Well, I didn't decide that. He did.
I know he proposed to you.
Yeah, they say that it's always the old men that hit up the young men. Well, not in this case. He was far more bold and aggressive in that area than I would ever think of being. Even, I would have a hard time asking someone for a date. I know you think I'm so bold, but I'm really a shock.
No, he had the boldness. That's what I'm saying.
He certainly did. And anyway, we ended up. He worked down in Whittier, and we dated for I don't know how long, many weeks, months, whatever. And I'd drive down and pick him up, and we'd go to a movie or whatever. And then finally, it was a situation where I said, listen, there's a possibility of a job opening up here in what was then becoming West Hollywood. And I said, I think you can get it. So he got it, and then he moved up, and we lived together from that point on.
Wow.
But as we were walking to work one day, he brought up the subject. He started it out, I think, by with the idea of, "Do you love me?" I said, "Yes, I do." And he says, "Are you in love with me?" And I said, "Yes, I am." "You want to get married?" I said, "What?" I said, "Men don't get married." He says, "Yeah, there's that new thing. I read it in your paper about..."
What new thing was that? What does that mean?
Well, the MCC, the Metropolitan Community Church, had been
the commitment ceremonies
created by an old friend, Reverend Troy Perry.
Right.
And he said, "I read it." He says, "We could do that rite of Holy Union or whatever it was." And I said, "Yeah, we could." He says, "Well, make up your mind. Either you want to be with me for the rest of your life or you don't." And I said, "Okay, I'll think about it."
Yeah.
And we get about halfway to work, and he says, "Well," and I said, "Well, what?" He says, "Have you thought about it?" I said, "No, I haven't thought about it that much." He says, "Well, you're either in love with me and you want to be with me, or you don't. When we get down to the corner and you go to your work, I'll go to mine. Let me know."
Whoa.
Well, by the time we got down to the corner in the silent walk, I was saying to myself, "Oh my God." So he turns to me and says, "Okay, what's your answer?" And I said, "Well, Patrick, you're stuck with me for the rest of your life." He goes, "Okay, good. I'll see you after work." And he tootled off, and I tootled off. And
the rest is history.
And that was how we really got together, yeah. And then when we got back to work, and he says, "Oh, we got to set a date for the wedding." And I says, "Well, how about the families and such?" And I said, "You haven't told your family that you're even gay." And he says, "Oh, yeah, I forgot about that."
Oops.
He says, "Okay, let's have Mother and Linda, his older sister, let's take them out for dinner at one of the nice places that's owned by some gay friends of ours down there."
So they can choke on an expensive dinner?
Yeah. He says, let's take them out for dinner on Mother's Day, no less.
Oh, dear.
And so we were there, and he was my little Irish Mexican, and he sweat. Oh, did he sweat? And I could see his underarms sweat. He was sweating, really sweating, getting ready to tell his mother and such. And he decided that he would tell her by inviting her and Linda to our upcoming nuptials.
Unbelievable.
And so finally got it out of his mouth. Linda says, "See, I told you, Mother." And Joan says, "Yeah, we knew he was gay. We knew you were gay, Patrick." Well, that's the way it is in a lot of families. The families actually do know. And when you finally get the balls enough to come out to them, they'll say, "Oh, yeah, I knew it all along," Anyway, he had a wonderful family. He came from brothers and sisters, a family of 14. He was in the center, And so we'd set the date, and it was like a year from the date that we first laid eyes on each other at that Palm Springs R&R time. And we set it for the ceremony to be up in Griffith Park, California. And it was a night that was a full moon, and it was just a beautiful night. And we had over 100 people that showed up for the wedding. None of my family, but a good portion of his family. And we had so many wonderful friends. And we had the reception at our house in West Hollywood, which was filled with people. And so that's kind of the way it went with our getting together.
And those photos are just incredible. The photos of the ceremony in the park, the photos of the reception at your house. I mean,
on my Facebook, yes.
Oh, gosh. And the two of you just look so good together and look so happy.
Well, Glory Waco took those photos, and she's a wonderful photographer. Yeah.
They're just tremendous. They're just tremendous. They really are.
So,
Absolutely.
Folks, don't give up on finding a life mate, because they just might be out there waiting to find you. And you can run across them in the grocery store, at the spa, who knows, at church. You don't know. But when it happens, you'll soon know, hey, looky what I've gotten myself into now. It's called in love. And then you take your time. You date, whatever. I know people don't like to do that much these days. Probably they want to get married in the next week. But that's a bunch of bullshit. Get a chance. Get a chance to know them. Get a chance to know them. I always have talked to my kids and said, "Are they good sex?" Oh, and they say, "Oh." I said, "Are they good sex?" Because that's a part of your so-called marriage relationship once you do get together. And you better know whether or not they're good sex or not, because otherwise that's going to be a big, big problem for you. You know.
Amen.
So I'm one of those loose minds that doesn't mind the fact that a person is having so-called premarital sex. I don't know anyone who hasn't had it almost.
Well, that's just hang out with a bunch of dirty birdies.
I know. I must meet the Pope, then I might find someone. Anyway.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm. We had a lot of ups and downs in our relationship, but that's normal, you know. And especially when you've got two very, very strong-headed people like Patrick and myself. On our first, I think it was like our first anniversary. Patrick had written a poem, and he had put it on a card, a beautiful card, and I don't know where this mountain stream is or was, you know, but it was that beautiful mountain stream on the front of the cover of it, and this was the poem that he wrote on the inside for me, and then he had it framed and printed up nicely for a Christmas gift in 1979. He had a typeset and everything, so it's really nice. And it was a poem that he wrote, "The pool we call love. The winter snows bring flowing crystals of ice down the rigid, ever-changing paths of a mountain stream. Billions of crystallized water chunks tearing themselves apart on the unfeeling rocks of progress, their own environment seemingly against them, while water swims the current with a splendor and grace that embraces the coldness with a warmth that melts the rough edges and make passage on their voyage easier. With time and the warmth of understanding, they shall merge into one, spreading beauty throughout their journey, finally to come to rest together in the pool we call love." Written by an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
How about that?
And you didn't discover his poems until after his death?
Well, that poem I had, and I knew
I didn't know about
I knew he had written this other poem because he showed it to me, after we got together. And then I lost track of it again, over the years and such. And I didn't find it until after he had passed away. And then I found the poem again. And it was a poem that he wrote when he was 17 years old, after he and I had gotten together. And it was sort of his coming out poem, I guess you'd say. And he called it My Closet Has a Light. Yeah. I've sat in darkness for so long, I wondered if I might be wrong to feel the feelings that I do, to say the words, I love you. I've wondered what my friends might say if they should find out that I'm gay. My mother would understand, I'm sure. Well, Dad would ask if there's a cure. But I sit in darkness to hide my face, for I am but a closet case. But in my darkness I'm not alone, for others sit within my zone and wonder if they'll ever see the day that they are really free. But in our darkness comes a light from others who have heard our plight. They voice the things I'd like to say. I'm proud, I'm free, I'm me, I'm gay. And if I have to, I will fight. For now, my closet has a light. And when he gave that to me to read and such, he says, and you, he says, were my light.
Oh. That's
so
wonderful.
We know that our lives affect those that are still in closets, and we are here shining a light for them, saying, hey, it's okay. You can tell your mother and your father now. You can tell your brothers and sisters and your friends, etc., And once we're out, oh, man. Whew. What a thing is. I wrote this some time back, too. Who am I? I'm unique, simply unique. I chose my genetic lineage. I designed and shaped my life, chose my environmental stimuli. Fate interrupts only when I stray from my goal of maturation. In all its complexity, life is simple beyond my wildest imagination. Simply beautiful, beautifully simple. I am simply unique. And that goes for you and everyone else listening today to this show. We are simply unique. Whether we are gay or straight or bi or try or whatever,
Amen, brother. You know what? Here
What?
We are doing our first 1 hour podcast, and would you believe that we are 11 minutes from the end?
Oh, goodness. Yes, folks, we're doing an hour show tonight, and next week we're doing an hour show, and then on the last 2 Wednesdays, which is Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, we will not be doing a show on those 2 nights. Give us a break, okay? We need it, and you need it. And then in January, we'll come back on again, and we're going to kind of try to make up our mind whether we're going to be doing hour shows or maybe 2-hour shows or whatever. But I think let's give it a try to see about these hour-length shows.
Let's do a show-a-thon. Let's do a whole weekend-long show like Jerry Lewis and make people send us money to shut us up.
I could do that. I could do that, yes.
Yes. An ace-a-thon.
We may have to if the love notes and donations don't come in. We may have to.
Oh my goodness! What a perfect segue.
Well, I take advantage of things like that.
Yeah, we should mention sponsorships are available.
Okay, do it, please.
Oh, yeah. Well, sponsorships are available.
Hey, that's very good, Lance.
It is It is certainly not free to put on a podcast. We pay for hosting. We pay for the ability to have people be able to download it and listen to it live. Sponsorship does have its benefits. It's probably not as expensive as people might imagine. And it includes an advertising presence on the Lundon-Calling.net website. It includes sponsor mentions on this show, which is probably that's probably another good segue into Ace. Who are our sponsors so far? Well, we've already mentioned Sonic Eccles. We should probably also mention Eclectic Resources. Eclectic Resources can be found at eclectic-resources.net, which is a web design service.
Now, they can click onto these things right off of the Lundon Calling website, right?
Yes, it's all there. It's all referenced. It's all there for the seeing and the taking.
Aha.
That's exactly right. While we're talking about the website, we should probably also mention that we do encourage people to register on the site. Register as a user so that you can make comments. We are looking into the ability to conduct regular drawings using the database of users on the site. So membership will have its privileges. I'm working on a pile of swag as we speak. No nude pictures of me yet, but I'm working on that. Well, it's hard to use that as a big incentive.
Thank you, God.
Yeah. People might register for the privilege to not be exposed to that.
Yes, we can threaten them.
We also, while we're talking about the website is a very information-rich resource. We have a links page where our ever-capable webmaster, Mike, who is also our producer, and is also the light behind Eclectic Resources and, by extension, Lundon Calling, is so good about almost as soon as we mention a new website, it magically appears as a link on our own website.
Told you, he's a Spider-Man like no other one. Mm-hmm.
He's incredible. He does with his fingers what you do with your lips. Let's put it that way. As quick as you can talk, he makes it happen. No, don't take your mind there. Not where I was going with that. That's what I get. That's what I get for drinking my tall boy vodka tonics out of the tavern glass instead of limiting myself to a proper highball like a true lady. Another great link that we probably haven't talked about that we do encourage people to look at, of course, is we now have a link on our site, from our site to our Facebook fan page. We are
very
on
good.
Facebook. We have fans and we have a page. Therefore, we have a Facebook fan page.
I'll have to make sure I'm checking into that one.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a new link that I'd like to see on our site. It's to the speaking of now, of course, we're soliciting sponsorships, but we've also sort of, how shall we say it? We have some adoptions. We've adopted some organizations. Yeah. And one of those organizations is PFLAG, which probably gets the most plugs on our show. That is up until the point that we have so many sponsors that we just don't have room to plug everybody. That blessed day will come, I'm sure. In the meantime,
one thing, if they're on the website, people can find them, you see. That's the nice thing about the internet.
Well, here's a web page that I would like to commend to people's attention. There is, of course, pflag.org, which is an incredible resource. But PFLAG also has a national blog. And it's a great, especially if you use Google Reader, I say add it to your reader. It's a great resource for sort of what's going on out there in the LGBT world. And, of course, it also contains updates on what PFLAGers are doing, which is always inspiring. It's always neat to see what allies are doing out there for LGBT equality. But I'll mention two things off the PFLAG National blog, which I'm sure we'll have posted on our website very soon. But in the meantime, you can go to Google and just Google PFLAG National blog. It's also available as a link from pflag.org. And if you're really good with your flying fingers of fury. It's http://pflagblog.blogspot.com. Two things on that blog right now that I'll mention that are kind of cool. One is PFLAG is doing their first annual True Colors online charity auction, and they have some really, really neat items available for people to bid on. Also, they have on there some information about there is a ginormous inaugural celebration that's going to happen in D.C. that's basically the LGBTA community's own party, our own commemoration. It's called Out for Equality. It's a co-production of PFLAG, HRC, a few other organizations. Those are two things that caught my attention. And before I wrap up my long meandering spiel, let me just call out a couple of the neat items that are available on this PFLAG auction.
I think you got 2 seconds. No, it doesn't. You got more than that. Go ahead.
Well, you go ahead, because I'll tell you what, I sit here and talk a good game about, let's talk about the cool items that are available on the auction. And
well, let them look. Let them look, because there are good items on that.
Oh, now, I would not be a good co-host if I didn't tease people. Hold on, let me do some teasing.
I know. Okay. Do a quick tease.
I'm a quick tease, am I? Okay, here we go. Shop PFLAG this holiday season and show you your true colors. Here are some of the prizes or items up for auction for bid. A 1-hour voice lesson as well as lunch with Cyndi Lauper in New York City, including 2 round-trip domestic tickets on American Airlines and a 2-night stay.
Wow, nice.
I know, right? Here's another lunch with Luke and Noah, Van Hansis and Jake Silverman from As the World Turns. I guess they're the out gay couple on the soap opera, as some people call them, the stories. 2 VIP tickets to The View and a meet and greet with Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right? Other stuff that, let's see, True Colors 2008 memorabilia, personal experiences with True Colors artists like the Indigo Girls, Margaret Cho, Carson Kressley.
Oh, my God.
Special items from Sarah McLachlan, Tegan and Sarah, Fred Schneider.
Okay, that's enough of a tease. That's enough of a tease. Good Lord. That is great.
Sexy is about leaving to the imagination.
All you girls out there, all you girls listening who might like to become an actress, maybe you'd like to do a pilot or two. Well, I found out that they're much more doable after a long flight.
Oh, groan.
Oh, groan.
Our listeners can't hear it, but even our producer, Mike, groaned at that one. Mike is like our decency check. I mean, when if he groans, you've crossed the line. Well, Ace, we have 1 more minute. Oh my gosh, these hours long.
Okay.
Sure.
Listen, we've got, I can take up a minute in a breath here. Timid men prefer the calm of despotism. When I think of the Chicago crap that's going on, timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the boisterous sea of liberty. Thomas Jefferson said that. So, folks, do not be afraid to be on the boisterous sea of liberty and fight against the despotic conditions that are going on in the political realm, in the business realm, or whatever. We are not timid men and women. We are strong. We are proud as gay people, as straight people, and as I thank Thomas Jefferson for that quote, because we need to stand up for what we believe in and get rid of some of this horrible greed crap that's going on. And I can't help but say this, too, because as we think about people making donations, if I had to make a donation, I'd be lucky to do a $5 one. But statistically, affluent men are on the rise. According to the 2007 Wealth Report, there are more riches in the world than ever today. There are 9.5 million people who are earning at least $1 million annually. Out of the 9.5 million people earning at least $1 million annually, there are 94,970 of them that are pulling it in at least $30 million a year. So there is money out there. And as a result of talking about money, we are now out of time. And folks, we'll see you next week. We love you. And remember, you can't pull a man out of the well if you're in the well with him. Bye-bye.